All right, let's do this. Welcome one, welcome all to The Chronic Atheist, the world's most irregularly appearing installments of Heaven podcast, where a manic, depressive, non-binary atheist talks about life, specifically life with chronic illness. It says illnesses. There is a plural. First draft, none of it scripted. Take it or leave it. As I always do, or try to remember to, do please be aware that there can at times be strong language in this, and so it's likely not suitable for children, and also that this reflects only the opinions and personal experiences of me and contains absolutely no medical advice, just podcast stuff. I think we're covered. Are we covered? I don't know. You're not listening to this for medical advice. If so, I strongly urge you to find a source that has that. This doesn't. All right. So anyway, this whole thing really kicked off, this whole thing being the Chronic Atheist podcast, available now wherever podcasts are not sold. Really got the wind under its wings last spring, I guess, really, when I had the big weird brain event. Poorly defined, undiagnosed, terribly, terribly unpleasant. Visit the archives, older episodes, what have you, for details on that hot mess. I'm not going to rehash it here. But within about a 12-month period, a year or two ago, first of all, I caught the Omicron variant of COVID-19, which was no fun at all, and left me with some lingering side effects. The one I complain about in day-to-day life most often is the some fairly catastrophic damage to my sense of taste and also of smell. They are both of which are now massively limited. The other one, which I've discussed on this podcast before, and in real life, day-to-day life, quotidian life, if you will, is brain fog. And that's really what I'm here today to talk about, some manifestations and lingering effects of, and honestly what I had expected and planned on the whole next episode of The Chronic Atheist being about. Because they're well, I won't let the cat out of the bag. I'll just say, is there a subscribe with notifications on equivalent in the podcast world as to YouTube? I don't even know. Let me know in the comments below, or beside, or wherever they live. Here, wherever here is. I don't know. I'm lost. I'm confused. I'm rambling. This will come as a total surprise to anyone who knows me. So anyway, I'm sorry, real quick, I did mention that this is not for children, right? This is, we've bored all the children out of the room at this point, so I absolve my own self. Excuse me while I have an adults-only sound effect. Don't worry, it's not as fun as it sounds. It's like one of those TikTok things, right? You know you're from above a certain age if you recognize this sound. Except that wasn't a dial-up modem, was it? So anyway, brain fog. Anybody who's listening to this show in air quotes, at this point is familiar with the brain fog after effects of COVID, which one can be subject to, though one is not necessarily, thank goodness, given how many fucking people are dealing with various forms of the after effects. But it can significantly impair short-term memory, long-term memory, conversion between the two, executive function, ability to focus even in the short term, just general day-to-day stuff. I'll tell you one thing. It's forced me to become much more habitual about some of the stuff I do and don't do and where I put things, like my keys. So, I don't know, cloud, silver lining, what have you. But anyway. So, one of the ways in which the brain fog significantly impacted me, and I got a ton of it, and it got way worse after last year's mysterious brain thing that put me in the hospital for 2 days, 3 days. I don't know, honestly and truly. Anyway, more on that in the archives. I'm not, as I said, going to rehash it here. But one of the ways in which it significantly impacted my day-to-day life, and did so in a negative way, was it functionally removed my ability to read beyond about the 2 or 3 sentence level. If it wasn't a business email with the kind of brevity one would expect given that term, or an Instagram caption, or a tweet, I had a lot of difficulty maintaining focus for long enough to process the written word. As anyone who follows me on Instagram particularly knows, books are very much part of my environment and are a tremendous part of not just my aesthetic, but of my brain life, and have been my entire body life, at least since I learned to read. So that was losing the ability to read recreationally was terribly, terribly unpleasant. And I almost want to say traumatic. Looking around at the many bookshelves full of books with which I surround myself and not being able to use them, the books, not the shelves. Obviously, I can use the shelves. Anyway, what was a source of of great sorrow to me for the bulk of the past 2 years. In fits and starts over the course of about 8 months, I did read an book, cover to cover. But it was literally paragraphs here, sentences there, 2 chapters back to back one day when I had just a real good run. It was not good, y'all. But I had some downtime this afternoon, and I had a book that I very much wanted to read and was in the mood to try to read, and I felt I could probably give it a shot. Well, then all of a sudden I was halfway through it. And then all of a sudden I was 3/4 of the way through it. And I could tell I was starting to lag. I could tell I was possibly missing things, but they were registering like I could follow it, even at that point, when I'd been reading for like 2.5 hours straight at that point, which is literally not something I've done since before Omicron. And then all of a sudden it was done. And I read the back matter, the author lives in XYZ with their partner ABC, and for speaking arrangements, inquire at info at bigbigauthor.net. And then it was done, and I put it down. And I teared up. I did not have myself a little therapeutic cry, which is probably still coming, to be honest. It'll likely catch me off guard at some point in the next couple of days, and that's okay. I'm fine with that. I'm not precious about it. But I did. And I just had to sit there with that feeling for a minute. Because one of the... I know it's a little thing. It's like it was, it wasn't decline and fall of the Roman Empire. It wasn't. I don't know. I'm literally looking around at my bookshelves, looking for something best to contrast with the notorious book that I've never read. But it wasn't a tome. It was the new Jack Reacher novel. Okay, I'm highbrow like that. Lee and Andrew Child teaming up for one of the last couple of novels before Lee hands off the franchise entire to his brother. But I mean, it was a whole ass book I read today, which I haven't done in 2 years. And I'm well, like with a lot of the other little events in my life that I've chronicled here, that's a big word, that I've related here on The Chronic Atheist, I'm just sort of processing it here with y'all. You know, like I said at the beginning, no takes, one take, none of it scripted. And I'm just kind of, I don't know. Something happened that was very much impacted by my recent experience of chronic illness and its very specific after effects, and it seemed like a good idea to include that in this quote-unquote show. Little piece of good news. A good story related to a long time coming, yes. But, yeah. And so, like I said, I just kind of had to sit there in that moment and feel those feelings and let myself tear up. And I posted about it on Instagram, of all fucking places, and then realized if I don't actually go ahead and do this while I'm sitting in the moment feeling the feels of it, I'm not going to. Or if I do, it'll be so far down the road that I'll have had too much time to A, think about it, and B, forget about how I felt about it in the moment, and it'll just come off weird, regardless of what happens in the interim. So here you are. It is, at the moment of recording, 6:47 p.m. I finished the book about half an hour ago, I guess. So this is about as in the moment as you can get for the kind of stuff we cover here without y'all actually accompanying me into the exam room, obviously via microphone. Otherwise it would be weird, or a kind of a not this show kind of situation. Okay, well, now I'm talking about that I've done in the course of talking about the experience that I just had, and that means we are at the end of the show. Thanks so much for coming along for the ride, for experiencing, reliving some of this stuff with me. Yeah. I guess that's all I've got for today. And, you know how this goes. Maybe in a week or a month or a calendar quarter, there'll be another episode about something so amazingly unrelated to the last episode, you wonder if it's even the same podcast. Except that I know what I sound like, and there's just not much mistaking this mellifluous aural experience that you're experiencing right now. So, thank you so much. Follow me on the stuff and the things at Junkshop Library if you are so inclined. And other than that, take care, be safe, and I guess as a quick side note, on the way out in terms of reading material, I know I got a little self-judgmental in my feels there for a second about what book it was that I read all the way through in one day. But let us remember the words of everyone's favorite Baltimore-based psychiatrist. It is not what you appreciate. It is not what you appreciate. It is that you appreciate it. Stay safe out there, y'all.